Hello friends, family, and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high-level best of 5 from the KSL SummerSlam. Today is going to be Beyond here in the bottom left versus Solar, who spawned in the top right of Ancient Cistern. And, ooh, a build order out of Beyond that isn't the 2-Rex Reaper. It is going to be a 2-Rex, but it is actually the build that he was spamming a while back. This is the CC first into 2-Rex Reactor Tech Lab opener, and he's gonna follow this up with another barracks. I feel like in a way this is kind of what came first out of Beyond, you know? People often ask what came first, the chicken or the egg, and people also often ask me what came first, the 2-Rex on the low ground or the CC on the low ground. And I do believe that the CC on the low ground was first. That's what Beyond liked to play quite a bit for a very long time. It's going to follow us up with a 4-Rex as well. A lot of the follow-ups from this particular opener are the exact same as they are with the 3 Reaper opener that Beyond has now been playing quite a bit. So it really is kind of just an evolution. What in the world is this crap? This guy rushing +1. That's not a build order. I wonder if it's Carapace. Yeah, it is. Don't know what this is. I also don't entirely know if this is going to be done before the 4-Rex hits. So this 4-Rex is going to hit in, well, about 80 seconds from now. This Carapace is going to be done in slightly more than 80 seconds. It is possible that it hits just before Carapace is going to finish up. In that case, Solar's build is really bad. If this finishes just before, it's going to be just fine. He's going to have that Carapace upgrade. It's going to be huge against the Marine push out that's inevitably coming out, because this is kind of all in out of Beyond. Sure, he has decent eco, but he's lacking the tech for any type of serious follow-up. It's just going to be Marines into more Marines into more Marines, probably into an eventual 2-base all-in, because that is most of the time the only thing you can viably play off of this particular opener. eBays are also late, as per usual, pretty much. Now the factory does go down. So here goes Beyond. Has a lot of Marines out on the map. 22. Stim finishing up soon. Combat finishing up, well, rather soon as well. Carapace is getting closer and closer to completion. What is the queen count? We're at 6. We have 49 workers and pure Ling production at this point. Speed is fairly late. This is an optimized build here out of Solar. Optimized for a timing, except the timing that Solar is optimizing for hits in about 15 seconds from now. This timing is hitting right now. There's no Carapace quite yet. Beyond needs to hit at this moment. If he waits for the next wave of Marines, that would be bad. Here we go. Carapace 8 seconds away from finishing up, and Solar wants to desperately wait for that. Loses 6 drones instantly as a result. Now it's finished up, and this fight is going to go much worse for Beyond than it usually would, but it still is honestly quite fine. He's killed 7 workers, has ended a lot of resources. Way up in the resources lost step. Is going to go for perhaps a couple more links and then run away with the leftover Marines. So up in supply. A good initial trade there. Denying quite a bit of creep as well. What units have died? 4 queens, 43 links, and 7 drones. Now these Marines are still going to get caught, and they will end up falling. The upgrade situation here for Solar does look quite nice as well. Let's not pretend that it doesn't. He's going to have a much faster +1. Usually +1 hasn't even started yet at this point. He's going to have 1-1 done at a nice timing as well. We do have a 3rd CC, so it's not going to be that 2-base all-in that I was expecting, as the factory moves over to one of the 2 tech labs that has been created already so far in this game. The second eBay now gets thrown down as well. Another Marine move out. This time, though, I do believe it's going to be with the medevacs that are about to pop out. I doubt that Beyond is going to commit to a push without any medevacs. It would really surprise me. There's actually not that many links though. And the queen count also, well, it's at 7. Usually at this point you see a queen count of 9, sometimes even 10. Here comes Beyond, big stim for it. He is going to commit to this. That is somewhat surprising to me. That really is. He's getting an okay trade. +1 hadn't finished up either, so the entire timing just feels a bit off. He's going to be bleeding out a lot of Marines. There's a bunch of these links as well. Good in the resources lost, and as the income is fairly similar, probably good overall here for Beyond. who does have his first 2 medevacs out now. Once again, gonna move across the map. I hope these Marines can get to safety, but I have some serious doubts about that. It's going to try to run away. Does have +1 on the Marines. It's not going to be good enough. Centrifugal hooks now on the way. This incoming push will be very difficult for Solar to stop. Like, real difficult. 7 queens once again. It's adding 2 more in the mix. No bailing speed. No bailings altogether. There's going to be a tank. Here comes a big stim forward as we see these queens being quite useful as well. Just tanking a little bit of damage. Tank in the back. And here comes the fight, as the tank will definitely help out over here. Now needs to retarget onto some of these veins. Tank is going to fall. Is the target fire going to be good enough out of Beyond? The answer is no. The pickup a little late as well. Fairly sloppy play here from our Korean Terran players. Going to just pick up and probably try and drop in towards the main base. Overlord's eventually gonna spot that, but Solar might not be quite aware as to what is kicking off. Lynx moving out of position, being sent in here for a counter attack. As the double drop wheel go well, pretty much uncontested here. There's a bunch of Lynx that now run into position. Just not enough though, is it? Centrifugal hooks finishing up. That is going to do the trick, I do believe. Not gonna get a single target on one of these Banes. Beyond doesn't believe in it. He's moving across the map. Marines. A tank is here as well. We have 3 more random Marines coming from the top side too. This tank is fairly vulnerable, out of position, completely out in the open. This is not going to do anything useful. Gonna need to pick up the Marines on top of that, as 6 more reinforcing Marines might be in a bit of trouble. 2 drops get rerouted back towards the middle. And Beyond, 61 workers to 66. Has done a great job at denying creep again and again and again. Medevac's now once again going towards the main base. Not entirely sure what he wants to do with those. 5th barracks is on the way. I'd love to see a 2nd factory as well at some point. A major run by comes in towards the 3rd. Let's see how fast Beyond is with the response. Fast enough is the answer. He's going to lose 2-3 workers as he stims back with a crap ton of Marines actually. Would love to see just a tank up here or down here. Just anywhere so you can defend your base against any potential run bys. Double drop, if it were to walk in right now, could deal some serious damage. There's no banelings at all in position. There's no Lynx in position. And there's no Queens in position. So that means that Beyond right now has the opportunity to just kill like 4 or 5 workers at an instant. And then piss off again. So far though, hasn't been doing it. And now Solar is going to send a Ling in there to figure out where his opponent's army actually is. Gets that confirmation. It's like, hey, the double drop is on the left side. He's gonna send in the Ling Bane first to try and clean it up. But Beyond did respond and does not much of an issue. 165 supply to 150, 69 workers to 60. Upgrades in favor of Solar here in this fight, as the Banelings are gonna get some okay connections. Not the greatest, not the worst. Banelings continue rolling in. This position is quite tricky though, as Beyond sets in the chase. This army's still alive as well. Gonna get 1, gonna get 2 snipes there. 4th base has started and it's actually nearing completion. 2nd factory out, producing might. I think if there's this little creep, I feel like getting a lot of tanks is not that bad. Because you can start pushing so close to your opponent's bases. There's always these little ridges, these ledges, these types of positions that are so hard to deal with. Always feel like the more open the areas that you're gonna fight in, the better mines tend to become, and the more tight it is, the tanks are just superior. Love this positioning here behind those bushes as well, because there's so little creep. Beyond can pretty much decide as to where he wants to fight. Sniping the spawning pool, that is researching adrenal glands, is kind of big. I'm happy to see that. Very happy to see that even. Beyond though does need to be careful. Doesn't have that many siege units. Doesn't have that many factory units in general. It's now producing 3 tanks at a time with triple factory. That I do like. Has 8 Rex as well, which is also nice. Gonna get hit by a couple of Banes in the face. As he's also lost these drops, there's really not that much map presence coming out of Beyond. He's making a big transition into a heavier tank count. Needs to survive for the next, 40 seconds or so. Until he gets up to more and more tanks, until that +3 finishes. I'm actually not really liking his spot at all. Big Blinding Cloud gets cast here. The Planetary is helping out, but there's too many Banelings. Solar's gonna move in. Going to take out the Planetaries. The tanks weren't quite sieged up in a good defensive position. I think Solar's gonna take game number 1 over here. There is a drop on the map, but it's not enough. GG gets caught, and Solar takes Ancient Cistern. Puts himself on the 1-0 lead here in this best of 5. We see Bian open up with his more standard 2-Rex this time around. It's the 2-Rex that we've kind of gotten used to. It's just a double Reaper though. Used to always be these triple Reapers. Of course, it is a map with a ramp on Dragon Skills, which makes it a little bit harder to actually deal a whole lot of damage. A couple of things will get taken out here. God, Reapers are powerful, aren't they? Beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Reapers just buzzing around, having a good old time here. This Metabolic Boost finishes up rather quickly. Feels like this might have been some type of pool first that I missed in the early game. Third hatchery also going down, and then the question always is, what is the follow-up going to be here for Terran? We've seen Maru often follow this up with just very heavy reliance on triple CC, while Beyond seems to be much more keen on getting higher barracks count, whether it's going to be 3 barracks or 4 barracks, doesn't matter too much. He really likes getting those high numbers of Marines out, and we see a second tech lab as well, and this is indicative of it being a combat shield push out as a follow-up. So it's going to be a 3-Rex with a combat shield follow-up. That's all going to be very, very exciting. As it means that a bunch of Marines are going to walk across the map in combinations with these Reapers. And thus we'll have quite some pressure out early on. It's not going to hit quite as hard as last game, but it just hits at a different timing. Like I think it hits maybe slightly later, but because of those early Reapers, it might be hard for Solar to actually hold properly. Marines moving across the map at a very high pace, by the way. This almost feels like an unrealistic timing to hit. Solar still droning up as well. He's building some links now, and I can understand that. Looking at this, like, hey, maybe I need some links. This is such a weird amount of Marines as well. Like, do you actually want to engage into this? I think the answer is no. Beyond's just going to force out some units and then run back. This was a move that possessed considerable risk. But I think it is going to pay off. The next couple of Marines also showing up right now here on top of that ramp. Kind of feels like he forced Solar into building units that Solar probably wanted to build anyway. So it's like forcing someone into doing something they already want. So it's not really forcing. That's just normal. It would have happened either way. I think 44 is a perfect number here to start building links at a high pace against this particular build order. So not quite sure if Beyond did a favor here to himself. 455, and this finishes up. Gonna get a stim forward. First queen gets sniped. Second queen goes down. Third queen almost goes down as lots of links are falling. And the stim is about to run out. Next one needs to be shot. Oh, that queen in the back staying alive at 2 HP is huge. Another queen stays alive at what, like 5 HP. These Marines could have done even better than this. Overall resources lost is going to be 1200 to 1706. I do prefer the position that Solar is in though, because Beyond doesn't really have a follow-up. He doesn't have the ability to just go into a third base from here on out. He's actually in kind of a bad position. His upgrade is late. He's trying to get more and more Marines out right now from these 3 barracks. He's getting a reactor as well on this particular barracks, and a 3rd CC is actually going to get produced. I feel like that might just be a little late. As we're gonna have a 4th hatch going down for Solar, who is struggling with the creep spread, has, well, technically no creep spread at all. I mean, what, 7 tumors total? Yeah, actually, exactly 7 tumors total. Starting his upgrades now, starting with the +1 melee over the carapace. It's the opposite of what we usually see, but as there's plenty of cash in the bank, I don't think it's going to matter all that much. 4th base will get cancelled, as there's 20 more links in production. Solar planning on I'm building a lot of units here. And I mean, there's really no point for him to build drones at the moment. Simply because he doesn't have a 4th base. He wants to play a Ling Bane style, which is going to be on low gas. So far 3 gas. And that means that the particular worker count that he's on right now is very close to the maximum amount. Might want to go up to like 57, which is exactly what he's doing as well. Because then you have full saturation on 3 bases with 3 gas. But, I mean, ideally he'd be on a slightly higher worker count here. I do think so. This push out is now making its way on the map. We'll take out an Overlord. It's gonna supply block Solar. I think that's the second time that Solar has been supply blocked so far this game due to an Overlord dying. Isn't playing with a whole lot of capacity space here. He's just, yeah, having issues with that, making sure that he can produce the entire time. See, a lot of Zerg players just get, 5-6 Overlords at a time at this point in the game, so they can easily produce. There's not going to be Banelings ready either, Solar not in position to quite deal with this. And as a result, this tank will siege up in a brilliant spot. This fort base gets cancelled, so that's the second cancel on a fort. And Solar right now actually not in that brilliant of a position anymore. Honestly, his initial spot was great, but now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, he doesn't have Baneling speed. He doesn't have a fort base. Like, what is he actually ahead in? Love this spot, by the way. This high ground over here. Oh, that's banging. That's actually banging for sure. At the same time, we have an attack going towards the new fort base location. The third attempt here of Solar trying to get a fort is going to get cancelled again. Beyond right now, setting up one hell of a fight as well as the tank not focusing down the Banes. There we go, first big shot on the Banes. First two shots were on these Lings though, so not quite great. I'm not sure if this was a cancel or if this got killed. Either way, there's no fourth anymore, and that is a very big deal. 60 workers to 59. Solar is going to be struggling here in this game, trying to get that income up, because usually Zerg will be trading inefficiently. That's always going to be the case, just due to how their units work. However, because they have higher eco, it tends to not be a huge problem. If you don't have a fort base though, it probably is going to be a pretty freaking big problem. We have some minor oversaturation already in the main base, as this push is gonna get cleaned up. At the same time, we have 8 Marines on the left side, which now will stim in. Could get a couple of worker kills. Let's see how quick Solar will be in the response. Loses 3-4 workers, maybe 5. Yep, there we go, 5. Queen gets targeted down. No! Well, this is like the third Queen that survives with 2 HP. Okay, Marine gets dropped to take it out. Will end up dying. A bunch of these creep tumors will get cleared as well in the middle. Creep spread for Solar, very mediocre. Worker count for Solar, very mediocre. There are 5 barracks out right now, just kind of running around for our good friend Beyond. Have a cheeky little pickup in this medevac. Only 3 Marines still in there. More creep tumors will get taken out. Wonder where you set up these tanks now. Just in the far back, perhaps? Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Big stim forward. 46 Marines. 4 tanks. Let's go is what I say. It's a good setup, but feels like Solar's fight here might actually be good as well. Still 2 Marines alive. Actually, there's a lot of Marines alive. Way more than I thought there would be. This fight looks so good for Solar as he cleared tanks at a high pace, but in the end, Marines still survive. Pick up in a very low medevac is going to save a bunch of them. So triple Marine drop is going to come back towards the left side here. 2-2 finishing up for Solar as Pian is trading a little bit behind with the upgrades, but is ahead in supply right now. Is equal in the worker count as well. And all of these trades, resources lost-wise, have just been favoring Beyond. So over time, you can see that the supply is just shifting further and further in Beyond's favor as he takes this game after a fairly poor early game, I would say. Gets the W here, denying the fort base again and again and again, and ties up the series. Once more, we have a double Reaper opener coming out of Beyond. Well, double Barracks Reaper opener coming out of Beyond. It is, of course, a triple Reaper this time around, not just 2. Surprised how well that last game went for him. It always kind of feels like that, though, that there's such a thin line for the Zerg between like being ahead and then just straight up dying. It really was just Solar lacking the vision out on the map, it felt like, where you couldn't really get anything done. Now, these Reapers are looking for an angle. They're not quite finding it yet. So now they're gonna jump in towards the natural, almost get surrounded, but of course they have to jump back up still. Like, this Queen control, it looks very easy for Solar, but it really ain't. Like, you constantly have to be in position. If you're not in position once and the Reapers get in and your Queen is chasing rather than being there ahead of time, you're just going to end up losing a crap ton of workers, because these Reapers 2-shot drones or 2 volley drones. If Reapers would 2-shot drones, that would be proper busted. Reaper shows up at like the first minute, starts killing like drones in 2 shots. That would be a balance change that I'd love to see. In general, I'd just love to see a balance change that would completely, change like some interaction in the early game. Make it completely busted. And then see how quickly people would realize. I've often fantasized about being in charge completely of the balance and then just putting in like a change that probably no one would even figure out. I think it would be so funny. I've been thinking of this as a series where I'd let pro players, I'm pretending like I'm just hosting regular show matches, but then in reality, I'll give like the Marine an extra damage or something. And I don't tell them. So they're playing. So it's like Spirit versus Serral, you know? Or like basically we're in a game in which Serral usually would be kind of favored. But in this case, it isn't quite the case. I really wonder how quickly they would realize that. I think it would be perfect to buff the Marine. Just maybe give like, I wonder if you can give like half range to a unit as well. So you just give the Stalker like half an extra range. I think that should be doable. Just increase the damage of the Stalker attack by like 1. Make sure that it shouldn't change any of the very early game interactions. You can upgrade, maybe gives more attack damage than usual. God, this would be so funny. That would actually make my day. Just host a bunch of show matches on this, and they have absolutely no clue. It wouldn't be very fun for them, though. But then again, it's not about the pro gamers, it's about the audience, my friends. Pro gamers can go suck it. Should have started a YouTube channel like I did. You wouldn't have to worry all the time about, you know, trying your best in show matches. You could just be hosting the show matches, putting in ridiculous things in there. I'm gonna get a Raven being sent across the map right now. I've seen Beyond play this particular build before. It was also in this tournament, actually. I just went into the 2-Rex Reaper with the Raven. It's doing a phenomenal job with it. Let's see if it's going to be the case here as well. So the double medevac is now out. Third CC is here too. It's in general such a cool build. Like, just everything about it makes me happy to see. Like, it just works, you know? It really just works. Double auto turret heading in towards the main. You would think that maybe interference matrix on the queens would be better. I actually do think that. Like, imagine this engagement. I guess if there's too many links, there's not too much of a point, but if there were no links though, I feel like this build would be huge with a massive interference matrix. Because interference matrix doesn't work so well on links because it's difficult to, you know, to get them. It's difficult to hit all the links at the same time because they're so fast. So probably need to focus on clearing queens. People that are really keen on, you know, having a lot of queens in their composition and only defending with those queens and a low amount of links, I think it's perfect against them. In general, against like late baneling nest, late baneling speed, I think this is crazy. The anti-armor missile. Did I say interference the entire time? I meant anti-armor missile. The anti-armor missile is like the sickest spell that I think is still a little bit underutilized. The fact that it's just -2 armor, like it's the same effect as a Guardian Shield has, but you can put it on your opponent. Like that is pretty cray. That is pretty cray. Tell me it ain't so. 1-1 about to finish up for both players here, as Beyond has done a pretty decent job once more at taking out creep tumors. There's not that many creep tumors. We now have a scout coming in out of Solar. Sees, well, not a whole lot. It's gonna get caught. Sense this across the map, perhaps. Yeah, it's gonna go for a run by, and I don't think this is going to be super valuable. There's no tank at home yet, though. Mines are being produced. Things running in. Trying to get us around. Will get us around, actually, as these 2 mines will end up burrowing as well. Nice little burrow. This one Marine ends up dying to the friendly fire there. Raven's gonna get pissed off. I think he F2'd back home, honestly. I think this was a massive F2 move. He's gonna lose it to the queens. Very sad for Beyond. Very nice for Solar. Killing that is always going to be a nice thing. Double medevac move out here is it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. If we can take out this base, that would be nice. In a normal game, denying the 5th base is a very big deal. Last game, Beyond just kept denying the 4th, which is just extremely uncommon. So I don't think we're, you know, you're usually not expecting that to happen again. But the 5th base, that's definitely usually a focal point for the Terran. Okay, if I can clear that, that's great. And there's really not that much creep outside of the 5th base. There's hardly any creep outside of the 3rd. Beyond's going to continue taking out these rocks. I'm not so sure why he's very keen on this particular position, but he seems to be. This is an 8-Rex pre-4th command center, fairly dedicated timing. It's gonna hit with 2-2, and hopefully with some marauders in there as well. You're gonna get a big scan. Pick up. Ooh, nice little mine there. Little mine. 7 kills on that mine. That's cringe if you're Zerg. There's one spore done. There's another spore on the way here. As we have 2 more barracks. Now turning into tech labs. Yes, it's just going to be a simple 8 racks. 4 CC behind this. This is kind of... I feel like I first saw this with Gumiho. Because back in the day, 8 racks meant that you're really just all-inning with tank, marine. That was it. But nowadays, we see a lot of these Terrans just wanting faster Marauder production. And they start adding in Marauders way, way quicker. And then they get a fort base behind it. So, yes, their eco is significantly worse. But they have this really strong, continuous pushing power with much faster Marauders. Which is often a big deal if there's some momentum on your side. Especially if there's hardly any creep like in this particular game. That's a big mine hit. Well, one of them was big. I thought it was this one that ended up being big, but it only has 1 kill. The other one has 15 kills. Beyond sets up for another drop in towards the main base. I don't think that should really work out. You have these spores in position already. It's every time you move through a spore, your medevacts are just going to get damaged quite a bit, and that's frustrating. This marine drop, though, is dealing a lot of damage as well. As the drop is still alive. Yeah, Spore is just dealing with this so well. And the Hydras show up. The Banelings get a lot of hits, too. This did not go that great for Beyond. I think he lost a bit of his momentum there. Still has some of these Marines alive. But the problem with Spores is not getting in. It is getting out. Because you're going to be fighting within Spore range. And if not, the Zerg can just move the Spores into where you're planning on fighting. So then all of a sudden you need to be fighting against Spores. If you're fighting Spores, the Banelings will deal too much damage. If you're not fighting the Spores, then your medevacts will start dying. So usually when you fly into a base with Spores, you end up losing a significant number of your medevacts, and it is just very frustrating. Spore damage output is quite high as well, don't forget about that. Of course, they can move, like all of these things, they really do add up. Beyond's going in with another quick push here, 2-2 versus 2-2. The medevac count is, well, practically non-existent, as there's just a single one over here. I think there's a second, okay, second and third are moving in. Marauders in front of the army. Gonna get some big mine hits. This actually looks like an OJ5 for Beyond. I'm just thinking, man, I hadn't quite expected this to go so well. I thought he kind of lost momentum already. But now the worker count is so extremely high for Solar that it almost feels like, if you just look at the army supply, like looking at the actual supply, this doesn't look great for Beyond. But looking at the army supply, it's like, well, this is kind of scary. 76 to 92. If you get 1 or 2 good mine hits, the Baneling count is very low. People often don't think about that, but the Baneling doesn't increase supply, yet hugely increases the competency of an army, right? And the quality of an army. So if you have an army that is maxed out but consists of pure Hydra Ling, it is probably worse than a 180 supply army of like 40 Banelings and then the rest Hydras. Like the Banelings are just better than Lings, especially against high marine counts. This is a good drop. I really do like that. He's still going to need to evacuate at some point. Vipers are out right now. That means that Parasitic Bomb is also available. This is going to be quite a nice little pickup, I hope. Yep. He doesn't fly through the Spore. This is actually quite great. More creep tumors being taken out. Beyond playing one hell of a game here. Still extremely low on that worker count, only at 71. He's now going to burrow some of these mines. That's a big hit. Oh, forgot the micro there. Very unfortunate. Parasitic Bomb is going to show up as well. 2 Parasitic Bombs here is going to make life much, much more difficult. This is going to pick up, perhaps move towards the left side. CC is an orbital. It's very common for Beyond to do that. You know what I wouldn't mind? Getting an extra CC for, and then just getting slightly more workers as well, just to make sure that all your bases are properly saturated. I think it's a very, very big deal. Just going up the difference between 70 and 80 workers feels very big for Terran often when it comes to how much like disposable income you really end up having. So we have this drop here on the top side with the triple medevac. We have 5 Marauders, 6 Marines. Solar already in position though. Solar at the same time also planning on moving in. Has a huge army. That's 43 Banes. There's also Vipers. Now the Vipers are great for Parasitic Bomb. Not necessarily useful when it comes to the Blinding Cloud because there's really no tanks. Parasitic Bomb is a huge spell, though. It really adds up over time as well. You're constantly forced into repairing your medeffects, which most Terrans aren't super keen on doing. So we're going to have to wait and see if, what's going to be the case over here. Mine, ooh, big connection there on those links. That's nice. And this one is also just... Like, the creep spread on this side, on this bottom side, is really quite poor. Well, the creep spread on the top side is freaking fantastic. Get a burrow as well. 18 out of 71 seconds. We have 3 more command centers coming in. What is that? 8 medevacs. Extremely high tier. Command center flying over towards the 5th location. The new base gets built instantly. We have so many CCs on the way right now. I do like that. Very important for Beyond to stay alive and stabilize on this planetary at the 5th. Like I said, 5th base, always going to be a very big thing in this matchup. For both races as well. It's not just the Terrans, that want to kill the 5th. It's also the Zergs that want to kill a 5th. Because once the 5th gets up, it feels like you're kind of straying into late game territory. And we're going to see a decently sized attack here. That's a lot of Banelings that try to move in towards his army. But this is a huge amount of bio. Banes on the top side are going to get taken out by mines. We'll try and bust down this depot wall. And we'll succeed at busting down that depot wall. Resources lost, 15k to 20k. So far, Beyond doing a pretty okay job when it comes to defending. This base still needs to turn into a planetary, still needs to get repaired. It's going to get cleared right now. There are extra command centers on the way, so it's not really the end of the world. These bad boys will turn into orbitals, of course. I almost feel like getting an orbital here might also be cool to have. So that you can just lift it. Instead of having to lose it every time. Nidus network on the way. Do we have a lurker then yet? Yeah. We have a lurker then. We have seismic spines. We have adaptive talents as well. Adrenal gland starting. So you have this command center once again flying over. And I think Solar's probably gonna try... I think what's gonna happen here is a fake Nidus in the main base. Into an attack on this 5th base. That's kind of how I'm imagining this for now. Because he wants to take out this base once more. That much is certain. There's one thing I know for sure, it's that. Queens will get blasted here. The creep spread on the bottom side is still looking very, very poor. Sort of moving into a bit of an odd angle. Not a huge fan of this angle. Mines, tanks are going to be extremely effective here. Blinding Clouds will connect with some of these tanks, but that felt okay actually. Cost-efficient trade for Solar. Actually, slightly better trade for Solar, which is something you don't see every day. But during this, Beyond did manage to set up his 5th base. He's adding in more tanks. He's getting that Infernal Pre-Igniter. Only on +1 vehicle plating though. No +2 vehicle weapons either. This can all get picked up in these 2 medevacs. Now we have a Nidus on the way. SCVs are being pulled off the line. And I think this is still a fake Nidus. Like, oh, actually there's 6 lurkers in it. Not entirely fake. As it is going to get cleared anyway, so it won't really matter at all. Wouldn't surprise me if later on the Nidus does end up going up. This Overseer is still just flying around looking for a position to plop down that Nidus. One Nidus with 6 lurkers can cause a lot of chaos. Solar has now taken one of his opponent's bases as well. It's going to be Beyond's potential 7th. Taking that out or mining from it would be absolutely huge, as we have pathogen glands on the way for these infestors. We have a Nidus network, yep, in between, being produced. That means that lurkers can move behind this mineral line. He just has a force right now dedicated to dealing with Nidus networks. At the same time, though, big blinding clouds are actually hitting not just the tanks, but also a huge portion of that bio. That is extremely frustrating. This Nidus network is not gonna get cleaned up quite yet. We'll get spotted though. So now we have a huge portion of the army moving there. Resources lost. I don't think these trades are good enough for Beyond. Usually you really want a slightly better ratio in trades than he's getting right now. He's just been consistently losing. He's not maxed out, and that means that Solar can just continue pushing in with a similar force again and again and again. As long as you're trading well, there's no reason to really stop. See some drones moving over towards this left side. I'd love to see full saturation on this base as soon as possible. I think it's probably a good call. Overseer gets created probably to once again start spamming Niduses somewhere. There's no sensor tower here near this 5th base, by the way. Makes the movements kind of difficult to track. Helbet's trying their best to fight off these links. Not doing a brilliant job, to be honest. Nidus goes down in the main. Lurker still in it, and this time Beyond ain't ready. He ain't in position. At the same time, losing a lot of forces here on the bottom side, as these ghosts are gonna get a couple of banes to the face. Oh, actually, it did end up dying. How did that die? What killed that? I don't know, but I don't think it's actually mattering here. Beyond might end up losing his 6th base. In a little bit of trouble here. Solar just continuing to push, continuing to go absolutely ham with these Hydra Baneling Viper. 26 to 35k, another Nidus network gets built, and once again we see an army split off here from Beyond wanting to deal with it. I wouldn't mind just seeing a Nidus over here as well, just so you can use the lurkers in the fight if you feel like you're about to break your opponent. This is a big push because there's no planetary here, and look at this base, almost empty. We see this base still full, this base almost empty, this base is empty. So really it's just 1.5 mining bases at this moment here for Beyond, who's gonna get pushed back. This planetary will die. Where's the rest of the army? There's some forces over here, but I guess this is pretty much it right now. 39k lost against 29. We still have some burrowed links up here as well. 48 workers to 91 as a Nidus network finally is gonna go down here. And I think this one will finish. That means that lurkers would be capable of popping out there. I mean, they could have just walked into that position as well. Using all those resources on the Nidus might not have quite been worth it. Here we go. It's gonna be just a single lurker for now. This topside base also being taken for Solar. So Solar taking majority of the bases on this map. The vast majority. It's 5 versus like 10 at this point. And I think we're one real bad fight away from Solar just taking this game. Actually, not even a bad fight, even if it's an even trade or a slightly Beyond favored trade. And Beyond still is most likely losing. Banelings do get decent connections as 50 more workers end up dying. These two lurkers going ham, denying one of the 2 mining bases currently. This is actual pain. We have more drones being sent over, total of 6. I'd love to see even more being pulled off this base. Some being pulled over here, just straight up mining there. I mean, while you have it, you might as well try and use it. Goes now moving forward. That might have been a mistake. These mules will get taken out as well, as we have another Baneling push coming in here. Good blinding cloud on that one tank. And this fight is... I mean, it's good. Like, it's plus 2k or so for Beyond, but at the end of the day, the opponent has a 5k bank and you have nothing. You're struggling to get money. Your mules are expiring. Like, life is just sucking right now for our Terran players. 10 more lurkers started and then instantly got cancelled. Instead, we see 32 more Banes. We have an Infestor on the way as well, so that might end up helping out. Is that the first Infestor that we're seeing here? I think it might just be. 9 workers now. Slowly but surely, more drones are being sent over to that base. It's a long and slow process, but it is definitely happening. Here comes another attack. This base could be in some trouble. There's a bunch of Hydras back here that could definitely help out when it comes to clearing that command center. This ghost will stay alive for now. Upgrades on these helmets not good enough. That doesn't make him great against links. But even if those were out, the army just doesn't consist of too many links right now. It's mainly just Hydra Bane. And we have that one Infestor there. Does connect with a fungal. GG gets called as Beyond gives up, and Solar puts himself on match point in this best of 5, ready to move into the semifinals. Once more, Beyond decided to open up with a double Barracks Reaper opener, triple Reapers of course. And we see Solar just kicking it off with a fast 3rd hatchery here on 20, well, it's supposed to be 28 supply. He was floating a little bit of cash. Gets things going eventually. Have to wait and see how he's gonna deal with this bad boy. Reaper dealing so much damage. There's this one thing that people don't realize about this build. Like, they'll see the first Reaper and it's dealing more damage than it usually does. And it doesn't make sense. But the reason for that is because the barracks is built on the low ground. The rush distance is like maybe 4 seconds faster or so, or 3 or 4 seconds faster, which is actually pretty significant. Like, that is a big deal. 4 more seconds of a Reaper shooting, like if it micros somewhat correctly, it's probably an entire ling or maybe even 2 lings. if you can micro that somewhat okay before that queen pops out. So you always see these Zerg players just opening up with straight 6 links, which I think tends to be a pretty good call. Now, what else do we have over here? We have Stim coming down. We have a 3rd barracks. Now, one of the most important things... Oh, it's a double gas. So I think this is a reactor then, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay. So for the Zerg, if you're a Zerg player and you're kind of lost in the sauce here, you know, like, what are you actually scouting for? Is a good question to ask. Well, first of all, you want to know how many barracks it is. I do believe that Solar saw the barracks at some point flying into the sky, but you also want to know what type of add-on there's going to be. If it's a reactor, it means that the main focus here for Beyond is going to be on getting a factory out as well as a faster second starport, and there's not going to be a 5-minute timing. Okay, that is a big thing to remember. If there is a timing at 5 minutes, it's most likely going to be fake, because Beyond's going to be optimizing for a different timing with this reactor. If this is a tech lab, then that means that the next 100 gas goes into Combat Shield. Combat Shield and Stim will finish at approximately the 5-minute mark, and thus indeed Beyond is going to be hitting a 5-minute timing. Factory will be delayed, Medevacs will be delayed, but there's a strong initial timing that you need to deal with as a Zerg player. So they usually require slightly different responses. So Beyond's now starting to move out on the map. He's faking. This is not real. Please note that this is not a real push out. You can get tricked by this. Just build way too many units way too early against it. Just respond the same way against everything. And I think that is probably incorrect, as it's very important for the Zerg to kind of realize what is going on over here. So these Marines are definitely looking for an angle. And now we'll head back on. Yeah, like I said, it's a fake push out. It ain't real. So a bunch of links got forced way too early here, because, well, this is not a real push yet. The actual push is going to arrive at maybe the 6-minute mark. It's going to have a lot of Marines due to that second reactor that is out already. And this is why this build is so powerful. It's not because there's one follow-up. It's because there's 10 follow-ups, and they all look the freaking same. You don't know if there's going to be a Raven. You don't know when combat will finish. You don't know when the Medevacs will be out. Sometimes you're not even sure if there's a 3rd CC or not. It might be 5 racks before factory. I've seen Maru play this particular build. Like, there's so many different follow-ups that the Terran can play that having a good catch-all response as Zerg is impossible. And scouting is also almost impossible due to the high Marine count that this build naturally gets with a double barracks. If Zerg had map hacks, this build would be terrible. But Zerg doesn't have map hacks, and as a result, they end up getting in pretty poor positions. Right now, there are a lot of links out, there's 60 drones, and there's 9 queens as well. Medevacs are out. I think, technically, what you want to be doing here is maybe force your opponent to burn 1 or 2 transfuses, try to clear a queen, but you don't want to actually stay here and fight. I think there's too many links to actually have a proper fight. And this is partially on creep as well. Surround happens, and that means that this is going fairly poor. Medevac's gonna get taken out. So this is a really bad start, because the strongest timing that Beyond is going to hit is not the initial one. It is when the combat shield finishes and you have a single tank for Medevacs. If you still have a large Marine count at that point, there's not going to be a Baneling nest with Baneling speed yet. Look how late Baneling speed is going to start. Now, right now, Beyond he's gonna hit a timing at 645, but he's already lost 18 Marines. And Marines scale so freaking well against Pure Ling. And Marines scale so freaking well against slow Banelings. There's almost no creep, which would have been the case as well, but losing those 18 Marines means that the incoming fight is going to be much harder to execute properly. +1 in combat shield are absolutely massive, and the fact that Beyond went before they finished is definitely a mistake. So it's gonna... there's just not enough Marines here for good damage output. You can't actually kill anything. Second tank now shows up as well. Look how far Centrifugal Hook still is, by the way. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You're literally 40 seconds away from Centrifugal Hooks. I ain't saying this is over. I'm just saying that Beyond is in a really bad spot, and 2-2 has already started right now. And 2-2 is kind of a showstopper when it comes to these types of builds. If the Terran doesn't get the kill on the opponent before 2-2 finishes, or deals significant amounts of damage, like somehow artificially lowers the worker count of Zerg, I don't actually think Terran can play a game. It's not viable to continue on. You're just not going to be capable of getting good trades here. Now,
Centrifugal Hooks is about to finish up. That means that this push most likely is going to get taken out at the same time. We see Solar setting up for it. It's going to hit right now. There's so many freaking Lings. 109, 19 Banes. And these tanks are all going to get cleaned up. These medevacs need to evacuate from here. But this is just an awful situation. Right now, Solar pretty much has a carte blanche to just do whatever he wants. He can literally just go into an infestation pit, throw down he could go for, infestation, Spire, he could go into Muta, he could get 10 gases in Muta. Like, there's no pressure that Beyond can put on his opponent. And the only thing that Beyond can do right now is go home and set up a good defensive position. With the third base that he has, his eco is garbage, sure. His production is not great either. It is, well, barely going to be on 5 barracks. His upgrades are late. He starts a 4 CC. There's just going to be zero pressure coming out of Beyond. And Solar now gets to make a decision. He's like, hey, I can try to kill my opponent, or I can get so far ahead and then just start killing the 4th base when that tries to land. I think both calls here are fine. The 2-2 timing that Solar could hit would be huge because he's going to be up 3 upgrades. So I think what you want to do here as Solar, what would be the optimal play, the best chances of winning, is going in with a significant attack here with Ling Bane, while also being on a relatively high drone count. And I'm talking 82, 83, 84k. It's going to go up to 81. I really would advise waiting for these 2 upgrades to finish up. Maybe clear some of these drops still that are out on the map, and then just going in. So you're just trading. Look at the difference here in income is 3,800 minerals a minute against 2,600. The moment you run in here with 30, 40 Banelings, you're going to be killing SCVs as well. And you still have that solid eco. I actually think you can take out this 3-base Terran. But if you can't, it's fine, because there's a Hive behind it, there's a Hydra Den behind it. You have a solid eco, you're going to get much better upgrades than your opponent, and you could always still make a play on your opponent's 4th base when that tries to land. This is a well sieged up position, look at this. We have 2 lips already sieged up. 2 more are idle right now, as tanks are here as well. There's literally no Marines, like 3 of them and half a Reaper. 4 tanks dealing okay damage, but yeah, we see 12, 13 SCVs already falling. Drop on the other side of the map is trying to deal some damage, but Lings are in position, and I think that is going to be it for this game and thus for this series. Solar destroying Beyond in the final map, just gaining strength throughout the series, now showcasing why he is one of the best Zergs at the moment. That is going to be it for me today. That's going to be it for Solar and Beyond as well. I hope you all enjoyed this. This was the KSL SummerSlam round of 8. We'll be continuing with more games in the upcoming days, semifinals as well as the finals. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, and bye-bye.